What's up, everybody? Mark with Kardavox Academy, and this is the fourth time I have recorded just the intro because something always happens. So I have officially made a sacrifice of my left foot, burned it in the backyard to the reaction video gods that nobody bugs me right now. So that being said, you may notice that my setup is a little bit different, and that's because starting March 4th, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. My business partner Quigs and I are going to be doing reaction videos on live stream, along with a couple other cool events as well. We'll be letting people submit their ideas for reaction videos within reason, of course. We're not just going to sit there like a vending machine, because I don't want to live that way. But I am interested in hearing things that you have to suggest, as well as, us bringing some videos to the table. We'll also be doing fun segments like lightning round quizzes and student highlights, because I have a lot of students who have been releasing stuff. So bringing attention to them is a really cool thing to do. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So today, this is actually one of our two traditional reactions that we're going to be doing for a while. We may go back to them. We may start doing them again. There's going to be a huge revamp of the channel here and the content we provide. It's going to be pretty cool, but we'll talk more about that in another section. Today, we're going to be checking out a band called 1056 or 1056. The only thing I'm confident about in saying this band name is I think because of the period at the end, I have to say it very authoritatively. I think I have to say 1056 or 1056. You can't say it, that period. It's very like, And I actually heard of this band through two channels. I heard about them only recently. One was the guitarist in the band that I do vocals for, Kardavox. He was like, yo, this song is popping off. You should totally do this. And then a couple people, we had an event yesterday. It was really cool, actually. It was a workshop hosted by Quigs, my business partner, as well as... and it featured Ryan Vale of Larcenia Row and Diego of Oracle Studios. And they were doing a whole vocal recording and production masterclass, basically like a really big educational event for our students and our patrons. And it was cool. It was kind of cool because the people attending got to make suggestions to Ryan. And some of those suggestions Ryan actually put down. So when the new song comes out, there will be parts that were written kind of in a way by people in the audience, which is kind of cool. But it was mentioned a couple times there. From what I was told, I was giving lessons, so I couldn't attend that, but for more in a bit. But I'm really excited because I've never heard of this band. I've never heard of 1056. Good Morning is an interesting song title. And all I know is that the guy in the thumbnail looks very stern. It's because of that period in the band name. So that's it. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Last thing, I'm a full-time vocal coach. I'm a vocalist myself of almost 15 years now. And I teach people how to make harsh vocal sounds safely and efficiently without hurting themselves. That's all I know. So let's check it out. 1056, 1056. Good morning. Here we go. Woof. There is a lot going on here. Holy cow. Also, that's an awesome shot. That's a good thumbnail shot. So let's go ahead and let's talk about some of the stuff I hear going on here. If this is the first time to the channel, I pause a lot and I talk about vocal techniques. So if you don't like pauses, I have B-sides. It's called Spotify. Just open it up, open up the app and play the song there, and you'll have it uninterrupted. And I won't have to hear about it. But anyway, so let's talk about a couple things I'm hearing here. One of the first things I want to point out before I talk about actual vocal technique is just like I'm really enjoying the use of layers here. There are multiple vocal layers. That's very common. That's not that rare of a thing. in the vocal industry, most people double track their vocals. But what I'm hearing here, and again, this is my first time through it, so I could be a little bit off, but what I'm hearing here is that there's a very thoughtful use of layers. Some people, when they hear this sort of thing, they think it's a little too much, it's a little gratuitous. I think it can be, but I'm having a good time sort of peeling it apart. So what I feel like I hear, subsequent listens might be a little bit different, but I feel like I hear layers of vocals that were intentionally used to fill each other out. Right now, of course, there's EQ. There are different things that we do to make vocals sound thicker or thinner. That's not cheating. That's just helping things sit in the mix nicely. But it certainly sounds like there's like a higher vocal, maybe a mid vocal, and a low vocal, all sort of interconnecting with each other. And it's creating a cool texture. It's creating a really cool texture. I also really liked the pattern. You know, we had just the vocals, and it had like this da 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 da. I don't know. It was kind of marchy. It sort of drew me in a little bit. I think the first thing I'm noticing about this guy's vocals that I enjoy is the sort of like open muffle sound. Right now, let me tell you what I mean. Right. So one thing that we want to do, generally speaking, with our metal vocals, regardless of whether you're doing false chord or fry, and of course there are like exceptions to this rule, but generally speaking, especially if we're wanting to do like a main vocal line, oftentimes we want to have a fairly open vocal tract, right? We want to have an open pharynx. The pharynx is the space in the back of the mouth. And an open mouth, we can think of the position of the lips and the opening, the aperture of the mouth is like the embouchure in a way. That's a term you can use. We want to have an open space. And a good way to get this, one thing I do with a lot of my students is to enter like TV face, right? Because, you know, back when people have, you know, I'm not old, but I feel like I'm getting there. But back in the day when you used to wake up on Saturday morning and sit, you know, cross-legged, crisscross applesauce in front of the TV, and you were watching TV, just go slack jaw, like dumb as a bag of rocks, you know? Right? And that can be a good position just for like a basic mid. Now, like this cool like muffle sound, when I say muffle, I don't mean that like the articulation is bad. I have a lot of thoughts on articulation in metal vocals anyway. I have a lot of thoughts, but I also have none because like mostly I don't care, but I also kind of do care. Maybe I'll make a hot takes video about that. Who's to say? But we can get a lot of this from the tongue being curled. And you can hear that if I talk like this, it sort of makes my voice sound a little bit muffled, right? I am losing a bit of articulation, but, you know, in metal vocals, like, how much does that really matter all the time? Sometimes it's good to be articulate, but you don't always have to. So if I take like a basic, like mid vocal, right? So I'm going to do kind of like a compressed, slippery term, a compressed like false chord, like, you know, here's your basic false chord, right? Super, super simple, no bells and whistles. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to gently bring it in. And I'm going to curl that tongue, right? And you're going to hear that I have some of that muffly quality, right? And that's a really good, powerful, driving scream. And you can do that regardless of what you're doing. False chord, fry, it doesn't matter to me. Relaxed jaw, slightly curled tongue, a little bit of grit in there. It can sound really cool for relatively low effort. And if you're interested in creating low effort metal vocals and you don't know how to get started, we do have an e-course that has been doing really well. A lot of people have been enjoying it. It's called False Chord Fundamentals. You can check it out on our website. But let's keep going because I want to hear more of this band. I didn't know what to expect, but so far it's a little bit cacophonous, but in a way that I'm not mad at. I'm not mad at it. Here we go. Also, like the line work on this guy's tattoos is like super nice, at least from what I can tell. I know I just paused, but that was really cool, actually. He just did something awesome, and I'm going to go back. I don't know if he did it intentionally. I tend to think he did because he seems very thoughtful about what he's choosing, but he's got this line, the walls are closing in. That drummer looks like he was caught by surprise. He was like, I didn't know you were going to pause here, man. But he's got this line. the walls are closing in, and then he says it again, and he says it through grit teeth, and it makes the vocal sound really small. That's pretty cool storytelling. I'm going to choose to think he did that on purpose, because like with the lyric, like with the vocal, I like, of course that sounds purposeful. And then he did that fundamental false chord sound for part of his vocals, popping in and out of it. That's a really cool way to add color and texture to your vocal style without necessarily having to go back and forth between high and low real quick. You can go back and forth between a more compressed and a looser. You know, you don't necessarily have to go too crazy, but pay attention to this. This is really cool. We're gonna go back and listen to that because that was a sick transition. But I want to talk about a couple things vocally here. So one thing that I'm really enjoying about his tone and about his voice is his my brain just turned off. His use of dynamics without necessarily, and this is building on what I talked about earlier, his use of the dynamics without necessarily going as high and as low as he can. One thing, I don't know, you know, as I've been involved in the music industry in some way for almost 15 years, vocals for a long time, and I still get confused with genres. So I don't know if this counts as deathcore, but it certainly has some strong deathcore influences. And one thing that you hear in a lot of deathcore that sometimes can be like, you know, after like 6 or 7 songs, you're like, okay, I get it. Which that's not to say I hate deathcore. It's just I think all genres have their tropes. And this is what I'm about to mention is a deathcore trope. The way that nuance is added is by going as high as you possibly can and as low as you possibly can. And that can be incredibly valuable. A lot of really great singers are famous because, in part, I should say, because of their range. I mean, you've got like your Ariana Grandes who can do those crazy, or your Mariah Careys, you know, depending on where you want to go, with their super high like whistle tones, right? And then they're more like chesty, rich voices, right? So it's not that, you know, exhibiting like the breadth of your range is bad, but there are other ways to show nuance and color and texture. And I like how this vocalist, rather than constantly going like this, he's playing it a little bit closer to the chest. I don't mean chest voice. I mean like the term, like, you know, playing it conservatively, close to the chest, right? So he's changing a lot of his color and texture with things such as tongue position, mouth shape, embouchure, distortion style, right? Distortion style isn't really the best term for it, but you know what I mean? Going, like I was talking about, going back and forth from the more compressed sound to the open sound, also throwing a little bit of his voice in there, right? He had a little bit of this, like, you know, like that sort of sound in there, which was really cool. Which, by the way, do I want to talk about that? I'm going to talk about it later because I'm sure he's going to do it again. But let me go back. Also, I don't really know anything about music videos or videography, but I feel like the color grading on this video is really cool. I love like the cooler browns and yellows, kind of soft against like this hard song. Really interesting. I dig it. These guys are doing some really cool stuff with rhythm. Like those little stops, like they're not showing up where I expect, and they feel very like asymmetrical, but they're really cool. Oh no, I took a drink during my speech. I just lost the election. Haha. Anyway, that's an old joke. Yeehaw. there's some really cool things we can talk about vocally, and I want to point this out. I think I wish I knew this guy's name. Probably should have looked it up. But I think one thing I'm really admiring about him is his movement around in the same space. So one thing he was doing is he was doing a very open to front sound, right? At least that's what it sounded like to me. And so we have like these and that's a really cool thing that you can do as a vocalist, is you can sort of chew on your words, right? You can sort of chew on or masticate your vocalizations. So if I have like this, this open, right, it has a cool sound. You do that really cool with highs as well. Like if you take just like a really basic low effort high vocal, right, and you chew on it, it can sound really neat. But I'm really liking what I'm hearing so far. Yeah. What the fuck? No. Holy shit. So, I have to tell you all something. I have, or maybe I should say I had a favorite metal, not even outro, but so I always admired the song It's Not Safe to Swim Today by Veil of Maya, because I'm used to looking over here because that's where my camera used to be, but now I gotta look over here. I always admired that song because the ending was so concise, like a really nicely wrapped present. The bow just, the song It's Not Safe to Swim Today, if you haven't looked into it, you should listen to it, because A, it's a great song, and B, it ends like this. Boop. That's the whole ending of the song. Boop, right? And that was my favorite. This might have just taken the cake, which is funny because anybody who knows me knows that I love 5-minute long outros. Like seriously, give me like a very like atmospheric black metal, or any of the various like shoegaze inspired genres, grunge gaze, death gaze, which is what a lot of Kardashev does. And if there's an intro that's 3 minutes, I probably want it to be double that length. And yet at the same time, I also really have a lot of love for the concise ending. And this ending, not only was it concise, but it was just like the song was cut early, but in a way that sounded so cool. So cool. Dang. What the? And the sad, I'm never going to relive that. That's the weakness. Not the weakness, but that's the maybe the opportunity cost, the compromise. That's the word I'm looking for. That's a compromise with such aggressively ending songs. Is the first time it gets you, and then after that, it always tastes a little less sweet, but it's still so cool. Let's hear it. No! Right after the blast beat, bro? Come on. What are you doing? Like, it pisses me off, but I love it. It doesn't piss me off. It's just like, the term I'm thinking of is not polite for YouTube. So I'm not going to say it, but it really like excites the palate, and then it's just done. But I think they did it really well. That was awesome. Yeah, that might have taken the crown from It's Not Safe to Swim Today. Sorry, Velamaya, love you. That was so cool. That was so cool. Wow. I'm a sucker for outros. Outros are always my favorite part of every song. But that wasn't even an outro. There's nothing there. There, the blast beat starts, and then they're just like, nah, fuck you guys. I respect it. Sometimes you have to respectfully and kindly give your fans a bit of a fuck you, but in a loving way, you know, in like a way where like you might, you know, tell your brother, hey, I love you. Fuck you. And you're like, I love you too, man. Fuck you. Like that. And that's kind of what that felt like. I don't know. I'm rambling right now. Last thing I want to say about this vocalist that I really admire is, and I'll go into it. I'll rant. Why not? So he went back and forth between very, very articulate and also very, very, very inarticulate, right? And I think that that's one of the cool things about metal vocals. And I think that that's one of the awesome things that metal vocals can do that a lot of traditional, Western, maybe we should say, clean style cannot do, right? Or is not generally allowed to do, right? Is that we can choose how intelligible we want to be. And I was just talking with my business partner about this. So it's interesting this comes up now. I was just talking about my business partner about this in a meeting we had prior to this, where I was like, I only care about intelligibility and diction and articulation as much as it supplements the song and as much as is needed, right? So sometimes it's important. Sometimes it makes the song better, but sometimes you just want to let loose and sound like a demon. So when I hear sometimes people say like, oh, I don't like that metal vocalist, I can't understand, it's just all sounds like muffle. And I'm like, that's fair, but you are missing out on a whole culinary world that you could enjoy the flavor of, right? Likewise, it goes the other direction. When people are like, oh, I only like vocals that sound like they're, you know, bowel movements in hell and in a satanic plumbing system. I'm like, I love those too, but you're missing out on a whole culinary world. You know what I'm saying? And I like that he brought us both, like, you know, that same old excuses. Very, very cool. Very articulate. I think, I'm not sure how long this band has been around, so I don't want to sound like an idiot, but I feel like I heard that they're relatively new, like 3-4 years. So I'm very excited to hear where they're going. And I'd be interested in learning about if you know these bands' past projects, I'd be interested in hearing those to see where some of these influences came from. But that was sick. That was awesome. I love the use of nuance, the coloring, the positioning. I love the open and close embouchure. I love the chewing on the vocals. I love the fairly fundamental vocal styles that were then brought to their maximum. You know, like tea kettle screams are cool. Whenever I hear one, it makes me do the YouTube thumbnail face. What? Right? But at the same time, like, what are you gonna do? You gonna do that for a whole song? No, probably not. Well, maybe. But like, I maybe this is just the voice teacher in me, but I love when somebody takes something so fundamental as like, you know, and really just makes it into something just like really interesting. So yeah, hats off. I love this song. It was great. I'd be interested in hearing the thoughts of people who know more about mixing and mastering, what their thoughts are of this mix, because it seems very different from what I'm used to. So if you do a lot of music production, tell me what you think of this mix. But that's it. I'm just kind of rambling because it really surprised me and it caught me off guard, and that was a lot of fun. So if you enjoy the content, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you like the way that I talk about vocals and the way that I express, you know, and explain vocals, check out KardavoxAcademy.com. I do give one-on-one lessons. We're pretty booked right now, but a lot of times what people will do in the meantime is they will check out our false chord fundamental e-course. It's been helping a lot of people. And that's what I got. Hang out on March 4th for the live stream. Just watch. That's the day that my internet will go down. C'est la vie. Sous la vue. Many thanks. Much love. I'm out.